The job of a People and Places cameraman is usually difficult, sometimes dangerous. And quite often it means working under the most unfavorable conditions. In the burning wastes of the Sahara Desert, on the frozen shores of Greenland. But here's a case where the photographer drew an assignment in paradise. The place? Polynesia, a scattered group of islands far out in the broad Pacific. In the heart of Polynesia lies Samoa, which means sacred center. Samoa was formed untold ages ago by great volcanic peaks thrusting up from the ocean floor. The coastline presents a study in contrasts. In some places, palm trees form a backdrop for long sweeps of coral sand. In others, jutting boulders and high palisades form a coastline as rugged as the rocky shores of New England. Inland, Samoa is a place of high mountains and deep rainforests. The faraway places of the world are familiar grounds to photographer Herbert Knapp and his wife Trudy, for it was they who filmed our motion picture, Siam. To photograph the story of Samoa, they were to spend more than a year traveling over twisting jungle trails, moving constantly from village to village. In the beginning, the Knapps and their cameras were such a novelty, they couldn't bring the curious Samoan youngsters under control, even with a bribe of candy. But finally, the fascination wore off, and the children went back to the pleasant business of just being children. And that was when Herb was able to get his camera rolling to film the Samoan way of life, literally from the ground up. Among the younger males, one of the favorite pastimes is this game of marbles, played with rounded pebbles and a finger-flipping technique. It's unorthodox, but unerring. In fact, in the hands of a Samoan boy, a rock is such a deadly weapon, the island fathers have enacted laws prohibiting the hurling of stones at anything except other stones. A photographer intent on his work, plus an unguarded case of camera equipment, plus an uncontrollable case of curiosity, equals a lot of fun for the youngster, but one big headache for Herb. This was unexposed film. But of course, any Samoan can tell you a touch of sun never hurt anything. Besides, he's going to put it back when he gets through. Of course, the best way to keep little hands out of trouble is to keep them busy. And each father teaches his son the ancient skills and arts of his ancestors. Fire making is man's work, and a man is never too young to learn. 2 sticks of softwood are used, such as pau, or if you prefer, fua will do just as well. That's all there is to it. All right, son, carve yourself a fire stick and fire away. Now comes the rub. But first you must dampen the rubbing stick in the earth. Well, when it's a fellow's first fire, he ought to be allowed a few fumbles. But perhaps there are some things a man's too young to learn. In Samoa, rain squalls are a part of everyday life. In fact, the average rainfall here is over 100 inches annually. For a newcomer, the best thing in such a downpour is a store-bought umbrella, but not for the natives. They can find one on every tree. Besides, for Samoan youngsters, wet weather's the best kind. Just the thing for boat racing. Even after the rain has stopped, the water sports continue. This mad melee is a sort of seagoing hockey game, played in a welter of water and a clash of clubs. There's no teamwork here, it's every man for himself. And if you're really smart, you stay out of reach on the beach. And so with lots of spirit and plenty of splash, the game goes on and on till the tide goes out. The outstanding characteristic of a Samoan village is the architecture of the dwellings, and Herb was fortunate in being able to film the actual building of a Samoan fale, which means house. It's a community project, and bringing in the center post is a matter of some ceremony. In raising the center post, no plumb lines or levels are used. It's brought into true by eye alone. No nails or bolts are needed. Everything's lashed together with senet, the all-purpose twine of Samoa, made from coconut fibers. The roof thatching of sugarcane leaves defies torrential rain or tropical sun, and the open walls provide air conditioning. In filming Our People and Places motion picture of Samoa, Herb Knapp kept the camera rolling and Trudy kept the notes. Here they're recording the making of a ceremonial tapa cloth. It begins by stripping bark from the saplings of the mulberry tree, but only the soft inner fibers are used. To keep the material workable, it must be kept moist, and so cleaning and scraping takes place in a convenient creek. To form a wide cloth, the strips are welded together by pounding. And knot holes are patched at the same time. Intricately carved tablets called pattern boards are used to stain a design into the tapa cloth. Good workmanship demands that the colors go completely through the material. And as a matter of pride, each artisan makes her own dyes, in this case with a piece of reddish rock-like earth. In the final touch-up, a twig brush and a dye solution give a glossy appearance to the finished design. Since tapa cloth is limited to ceremonial use, the island artisans devote much of their time to the more commonplace job of making mats. The material is pandanus leaves with the spiny edges removed. Next, the leaves tied into loose rolls are put into a steam bath. After about half an hour, the strips are soft, spongy, and ready to be separated. Next, a series of washings and rinsings bleaches the material to a variety of shades ranging from straw yellow to near white. Finally, segregated according to size, the strips are laid out to dry. Samoan mats aren't actually woven. The process is known as plaiting. And girl children learn the art while still very young. For a woman's community standing is judged by her skill in mat making. In the Samoan household, mats serve as rugs, blankets, mattresses, and partitions. And so house cleaning and redecorating merely means airing and rearranging the mats. To earn the prized title of fine mat, the cross strands must number at least 12 to the inch. And these are the family jewels, the wealth of Samoa. When a Samoan is to be highly honored, he's usually presented with a fine mat. This is a carpenter who's done an outstanding job. The brief but spectacular dance is traditional. It expresses his gratitude for the award. In Samoa, there's one activity reserved exclusively for women, drawing water from the village well. But this is subject to rigid rules. The household container must be left at a prescribed distance. A white lava must be worn when approaching the well. And the coconut dipper may be used for no other purpose. Violation of these taboos results in deep disgrace, plus a fine, payable in mats, coconuts, or labor. A large part of the Samoan diet comes from the surrounding sea. So Herb Knapp spent many hours filming the fishing activities around the island. Here again, the finer points of an ancient art are handed down from father to son. Almost every kind of tackle is used, from the fishing spear to the net. Women are restricted to fishing along the shore, for it's an island taboo that only men may fish from the canoes. To film the fishing fleet in action, it was necessary to take the camera far out to an offshore coral reef. Our People in Places camera also caught the more daring fishermen who take their cockleshell canoes into the great rolling seas that lie beyond the reef. Some have ventured out here never to return, for there are sharks in these waters. But although the hazards are greater, the water is deeper and the fish are bigger. And after a day spent in deep water, the fisherman usually has something to brag about. The big one that didn't get away. Although Herb's main job was to film the Samoan way of life, there was another phase to his assignment too. He was to photograph the marine life of these tropical waters For a true-life adventure, we're preparing about islands of the sea. Handling the equipment necessary for the underwater camera work calls for something more substantial than an outrigger canoe. So two Samoans have bound their craft together in this common cause. The clear waters surrounding Samoa are ideal for the underwater camera box. And one of the regular residents here is the octopus. Sinister looking, but in reality quite harmless. Yet these quiet lagoons have dangerous denizens too. The moray eel. Right now he's intent on filching food from a sea anemone. To film our story of Samoa, Herb and Trudy Knapp would often travel over rough and hazardous terrain. There's one popular Samoan playground that lies in a most unlikely and almost inaccessible place. It's a series of cascades tumbling down a steep mountainside. The attraction here is Samoa's famous sliding rock, volcanic lava, worn smooth by countless centuries of rushing water, and many generations of sliding Samoans. This is rough sport, but that doesn't rule out the ladies. Whenever a village could be reached by road, the Knapp station wagon was converted into an outdoor sound studio. For the motion picture screen, the Knapps filmed Samoa in full-color cinemascope. And now to complete the story, with their tape recorder, they captured the melodic heartbeat of the island. In Samoa, music is a rhythmic, fluent language that every islander speaks, each in his own fashion. Of course, along with the music, there's always dancing, impromptu and spontaneous, as young and old alike express their light-hearted way of life. These are the people, and this is the place of our motion picture, Samoa. It's a colorful, happy picture, for surely no people are more contented and carefree than these. Nor is any island place more beautiful than their lovely homeland, Samoa, a sacred center in Polynesia.